What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rapflex Radio. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Rapp, and today's episode's all about the truth of a great night's sleep. And there are so many angles and lenses and avenues I could take when I'm talking about sleep, but I want to talk to you about it from a performance perspective. Because again, the physiology could be an hour or 2 hour long conversation. The psychology of it could be another hour or two. But I really want to give you a brief overview of sleep from a performance standpoint because I think it's so important to understand the role sleep plays in our performance, why a lot of people suffer from sleep deprivation, the goal of a great night's sleep, what that looks like consistently, and actual steps that you can take to improve the quality of your sleep. So really, you can show up as your best self consistently day after day, because we know that that is the one truth path to elite success and to elite performance and getting the results that we truly want in life. And that's my goal for you for this episode. But before I get into that, please, if you have not, subscribe to the YouTube channel or the podcast, whichever platform you're listening on. I would not want you to miss an episode. And this is brought to you by my Flex Philosophy course, which I have mentioned every episode. But it is the focus, learning, enthusiasm, and execution, the flex of Rapflex. And I have a 4-part video series and a free mini course for you to view and to do the accompanying exercises and to take home and really incorporate those 4 values into your life tangibly. And if I were given this a couple years ago, it would have massively changed my life. And I wanted to do that for you, and I have that for you for free. So please take advantage of that if you haven't already. So let's dive into sleep, and my Big Bang Theory fans are going to love this reference. Sheldon Cooper said, "I'm going to pump cerebral spinal fluid through my brain cells to remove the metabolic byproducts of the day's thoughts." And Howard just kind of gives him a weird look and says, "What?" And he's like, "I'm going to go to sleep. Bye, y'all." And that is when they're working for the government to build I forget specifically what they're building. If you're a Big Bang Theory fan, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, not the point of this. Basically, sleep is to allow you to reset yourself to quote-unquote 100%. And are we going to have a perfect night's sleep every single night? No. And especially within kind of the pandemic that we are still in currently, there are some positive things coming out, and depending on where you are in the country, we are starting to reopen some things very cautiously in some states, including Ohio. And it's, at least for me, I've had some not so pleasant dreams about the world ending and things like that, but I'll get into that more with my experience with sleep recently. But the specific performance when it comes to sleep is being able to rely on basically the quality and quantity of sleep to allow you to show up as your best self so that you can truly chase the results that you want in life. And sleep is going to play a huge role with that. And again, I could look at this from plenty of angles and plenty of lenses, and I definitely will, because I'm fascinated with sleep, both from a physiological and a psychological standpoint. But I wanted to bring sort of a unique perspective of performance within sleep and what it does for your performance. And if you've ever heard a sleep episode, you're probably going to recognize a lot of what I'm going to talk about with sleep deprivation, but it's very important because we all need a reminder, especially me. When I was making this, I'm like, oh, I still do this, this, and this. We all need a reminder, and that is what I'm here for, is to be, I don't have the statistic for you, but it says you need to hear basically the same thing 8 times to make an actual change. And I hope to be one of those 8 people for you to actually get you to do the positive things in your life to increase your quality and your quantity of sleep. And biggest thing I see with sleep deprivation within the athletic community and within entrepreneurs and coaches specifically is technology. sort of workloads and schedules, and basically the culture of what sleep really is. And from a physiological standpoint, I wasn't going to go too much into this, but it's important to talk about. Tech has become a disruptor to our natural sleep cycle and our natural circadian rhythm, which is basically our body's internal time clock of when our cortisol spikes, when we get up, when our melatonin starts to secrete and we wind down and we're supposed to go to sleep. The blue light from either a TV or iPad or iPhone is hitting our eyes and pretty much telling our body that it's still light out, suppress that melatonin production, and that is subsequently allowing like our disruption of sleep, and it's not allowing us to get to sleep when our body feels optimally to sleep. And it is very hard, especially right now, if you are isolated. Technology, social media, anything of that sort is kind of your only social support right now, and can be kind of an escape from what we're all dealing with, or it could be a catalyst if you're on Twitter, reading everything. But I understand that it is playing a significant role if you're up late at night on your technology. And I am susceptible to this as well. It's been tough recently to put up my phone and read or listen to something. But just as a reminder to both you and me that if we want to get a quality night's sleep and have that quantity as well, our tech needs to be either put up or severely reduced at night. Second is the athlete in the entrepreneurial workload or schedules. And I know for me, when I went into this and I heard all of the 18, 20 hour basically horror stories from my perspective, I said, okay, I'm going to leverage sleep. I'm going to basically start with it, make it my biggest priority, because I know for myself, and it's highly individualized, that sleep is very important to me. I need 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep, or I'm not going to show up as my best. And if I don't show up as my best, I'm not going to get the results I want in life. So I'm willing to sacrifice a lot of things, but sleep's not one of them. And you might be different. You might be able to run off of 5 to 6 hours of sleep. You might be quote unquote used to it. But really check yourself and say, oh, am I really performing my best at 5 to 6 hours of sleep? And you could be. Michael Jordan was an example, if you're watching The Last Dance, who was able to golf and drink and smoke cigars and do all this, do everything he was, and he was fueled for multiple different things, but he needed basically less sleep, and he was genetically gifted with this, and we saw this with Kobe Bryant as well, with his training schedule. But for most of us, we've seen the research, it's 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep. If you're an athlete, you're in season, 9 to 10 if you can. It's only going to allow you to do all the things necessary to recover and get you back to 100%. And it's the same with an entrepreneur. You're doing so many things, especially if you're a solopreneur, which I do talk to a lot of those. You're doing basically everything in your business, or you have an assistant or a VA. Your mind is in so many different places, and it is very easy to cut either fuel food out and to keep working, and it's easy to say, oh, I won't get the amount of sleep I need to, I'll keep working. And you might be able to get away with that in the short term, but I promise you in the long term it's not going to be sustainable. If you're listening to this, you want to be a long-term elite performer, and it's going to be huge. So look at your schedule. Either, if you created it, or if you're an athlete, I understand that, lifts start at either 6, 7 a.m. and you're probably going to have to sacrifice some things if you're in college. It's success has a price, and that's basically what I'm getting at with this particular point. Is failure has a price, partying has a price, success has a price. It's just what do you ultimately want in life? what are the results that you're going after? What is the future self of you going after? And what are you willing to give up to get there? And lastly, it is basically the entrepreneurial culture. And I think we're getting a little better, but maybe that's just because I surround myself with online coaches that talk about the prioritizing sleep and the importance of it. But the general Silicon Valley culture perspective is it's cool to not sleep and to grind constantly. And even though Gary Vee on the outside seems to portray this, he's talked about the importance of sleep and getting his 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Sometimes he doesn't get all of that, but he has acknowledged the importance of it, which I think is very important in many of his episodes. So really the goal of Great Night's Sleep is, like I've said before, a wipe of the day's thoughts and activities and a reset to quote-unquote 100%. Now, are we going to get to 100% every time? No. There are physiological and psychological processes and things that are going to limit us, but if we have that intention going into this, then we'll be more successful, as it were. And quality and quantity are both important, as we see in the research. So from my perspective and my experience, I've sort of touched on this, but sleep is very important to me. I wouldn't call it one of my favorite activities, but I really, really enjoy it. It's a place where I can take a breath and not have to worry, I guess, about certain things, and I'm doing something for me to be able to be at my best self, to show up for everything and everyone else in my life. And an athlete example, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, all of these elite performers, they have engineered their life to get the most amount of sleep like possible to their schedule and quality of sleep. Don't ignore supplements. Don't ignore like all the strategies I have for you. This is again highly individualized to your schedule, to your life. But understand again the importance of a great night's sleep. And I wanted to share with you a Simpson, Gibbs, and Matheson review of 2017. And the effects of sleep loss on athletic performance and the effects of sleep loss on physical health. And what we saw with this review, and I'll have this in the show notes if you want to check out the whole thing, if you're a nerd like me, we saw diminishing returns within physical performance, attention, executive function, which is sort of the high level strategy and sort of when either on the basketball court or in golf, the high level strategy and which is vital and very important. And lastly, learning. We saw dips in the quote unquote performance of all four of these aspects from a lack of sleep. But from a physical health standpoint, which we can all sort of relate to, it's a higher level of injury risk. We are more susceptible to illness. We're more susceptible to a fluctuation in our weight, and our pain tolerance can be off, especially if you are into physique building like I am, and you are constantly in not a growth phase in that perspective, but if you're always pushing and getting a little more, and I will get to the actual term here very soon, progressive overload. If you're always progressively overloading, you're going to have a certain sort of pain that comes with that. And if you're not getting the sleep necessary, that pain is going to be more than if you would have slept the quote-unquote appropriate amount of time for you. So I wanted to point this review of this research article because it takes a lot of individualized studies and puts that into what's called a review, and we're able to look at different patterns and trends. And if you're an athlete, your physical performance, your attention, your executive function, your learning are going to be huge indicators of if you're going to continue to be either a collegiate, move on to professional, or to have a sustained career within professional athletics. And our physical health, most people, unfortunately, are overweight. When I talk about most people, um, it is a generalization, but we see that with statistics. And this could be a huge contributing factor that people are not getting the amount of sleep necessary to maintain their weight, or pain tolerance, injury risk, things of that sort. So I have 5 strategies to a better night's sleep, and a lot of this can be found in books, in podcast episodes, things of that sort. I learned a lot from Sean Stevenson, who wrote basically the book on sleep, and a lot of this is in there. I think, yeah, all 5. I think maybe track your. I'm sure he has track your sleep, but I have seen these specific 5 strategies within like multiple realms of uh, sleep education, as it were. And one of the biggest things that Sean talks about is this first one. It's called create a sleep sanctuary, where your entire room is dedicated to rest, relaxation, and sleep. So this is the blackout curtains. This is a quality pillows, and quality mattress, and sheets, and things that put you in a very relaxed state, and to block out the light that can enter a room, and to make sure that the little red dots from either your TV or your Xbox consoles or things of that sort are covered up, because we've seen that light exposure will unfortunately keep us up. So second is to limit caffeine in early afternoon. And we know, if you do not know, caffeine has what's called a half-life, and depending on what milligrams you take a day, or if you know that and measure that, it has subsequently half the milligram life every 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So if we're taking caffeine either late afternoon or early evening, it is still in our system as we try and go to bed, and that is, let's just say, not optimal if we're trying to get a good night's sleep. So that is a reminder to you, and a reminder to me as well, to limit our caffeine in the early afternoon. 3, and I've talked about this sort of before, it is limit the blue light exposure at night as best you can. You can buy, the blue blocking glasses. I have a pair. Putting your phone up at night, and like telling people who text you late at night, say, hey, I'm trying to get a better night's sleep. I'll respond to you in the morning, things like that. I'm getting old, so that's what happens anyway. Those are sort of strategies to get over kind of the social pressure of it. And then 4 is track your sleep. Have a measurable sort of either sleep journal or an Aura ring. Aura will track your a lot of physiological like measurements, whether that is heart rate variability or what stages of sleep you're in, REM sleep, non-REM sleep. We'll get into that either in a blog post or another episode. But it's important to have sort of a baseline understanding of where your sleep is, so then you can improve upon it, just like with anything else, with your money, with your performance, with your emotions, anything else. It's important to track your sleep as well. And then this is kind of my own personal recommendation, is supplement as last resort, because I have seen, I've tried taking melatonin and it just keeps me up. I've taken reishi, which is part of gold juice, which is part of the Organifi blend, which I like a little more. But I would say try all the quote unquote natural remedies before you go and take supplements, because then you're just going to kind of be dependent on those things. And if you can get away with not being dependent on dosing melatonin or things of that sort, I think you'll be better off overall. And then the 201, the advanced, is creating an evening routine. The evening design, as I called it. I have an entire episode dedicated to this, but I wanted to share my quote-unquote night with you, because I flipped plays since I discussed the Elite Evening Design, as I called it. It's episode 16 or 17, I believe. But I wanted to explain this real quick to you. And I basically work noon to 6. And then play 1 is called this Power Down. So night design filled out, which is kind of my recap of the day, which I'm currently redesigning, so I don't do that currently. And then 10 minutes of country music to wind down, journal, and then sort of prep for the next day. So I've got workout and workout closed laid out for the next day. Oh, that just reminds me how much I miss the gym. Second, meals in the fridge, ready for the next day. Electronics are plugged in and ready for tomorrow. It's pretty much excluding the phone at that point. And then I like to have dinner around 6:30, and then clean kitchen is spotless before I move on to what I consider self-care time, which is, if you move past number 5, look at number 4, is that self-care plan that I start now at 7 instead of 9. I have put phone on charger, but that's hilarious and rarely ever happens. Just because, social isolation and talking to people is helpful at night for me, but I know I need to get better. Stretch and foam roll, few yoga poses, shower, bath, meditate, and then robe, and then I move on to sort of that fun relax, whether I'm playing a video game or watching a movie, TV show, book, etc. So I've decided to flip those and see how that does. And then basically it's that deep sleep prep is number 6, and it's pray, have a snack, turn on the diffuser, lotion and bedtime clothes, 1 episode of something comedy usually, and then turn off and listen to either The Herd or a sleep sound. So I wanted to share that with you if you have sort of all those things into consideration and you haven't created an evening routine, that it's kind of the next step to dialing in the quality sleep. So my wrap up for you is to start implementing 3 strategies I discussed, and let's go back to them just to reiterate what they are. Create a sleep sanctuary, and if you live with someone, discuss the importance that it would play in their lives as well. Limit caffeine in early afternoon, limit the blue light exposure at night, start to track your sleep. The Aura Ring shouldn't be any more than $300 unless you want the diamond crusted one. I believe that one's $1,000. And then again, supplement is last resort. So again, over the next week, 2 weeks, start implementing 3 strategies I discussed. Implement all 5. I believe you're going to start to see a better night's sleep, and you're going to start showing up with more energy and better for your friends, your family, your kids, your clients, your teammates, your coaches, and you're going to be your better self based on having a quality night's sleep. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Please share it to someone who needs to hear this, because we're all in a position to share this information to people who we believe need it, and I would very much appreciate that. And until next time, guys, have a great day.